All right, let's get into the tea. So welcome back to another late night chit chat. It's currently 1:30 a.m. Do not ask me why I'm awake. I do not normally stay up this late. Okay, but alas, I'm awake and I thought it was the perfect time to have a little bit of tea, quote unquote little, and also talk about the top 5 lessons I learned from my engineering project this semester. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the very first lesson that I learned, and this was as an engineer in the making, not necessarily as the PM of the project, was sometimes you need to overestimate yourself in order to learn. Because if you try to estimate correctly, you're gonna maybe underestimate yourself and therefore undermine and ruin opportunities of growth. Now let me clarify what that means. So let's take, for example, the PCB I designed this semester and the power supply that I designed this semester, because they were very interlinked and meshed. They were essentially like, it was the power system on the PCB that I was designing, so they were interlinked. Now, I could have very easily estimated that, you know what, I've never done power supply design before, I've never ever designed a PCB before, so if I'm supposed to be estimating this correctly as the PM, this is going to take me much longer than maybe some other team members on the team, and someone else should take it on, even though it was something that I wanted to learn. So that would be me estimating it properly and thinking, hey, well, am I really suited for this or not? You know, I have never touched this before. I've never seen this stuff before. Should I even take this on? So I actually overestimated. 1 a.m. guys, 1 a.m. Please excuse my word tripping over here. So I overestimated myself in terms of how fast I could learn, and therefore I pushed myself to learn PCB design and power supply design in the time that I had. I pushed myself to just learn what I needed to learn without thinking, oh, hey, I don't know this, or hey, I've never looked at this stuff before, and so on and so forth. So lesson learned is overestimate yourself in order to learn, and push your boundaries in order to learn, because that's always the goal, right? All right, so lesson number 2, which is my personal favorite just because of how endearing it sounds. So the second lesson is be smart but lazy. And what this essentially means is start with a project scope that is small, make it purposefully small so that you're extremely confident that you'll be able to meet that project scope, and make this as small as need be. So for an ambitious project, make it even smaller and be very conservative in your project scope initially. Now, as you go through the project and the time that you've allocated for the project, you will realize if you have time to take on additional scope. So additional, more high-level requirements that you were interested in initially, but were much more ambitious, and so you didn't really know if it was something that you should take on in this project. So be smart, but be lazy. So be smart, but use your time wisely and keep everything very small. So your goals very limited and very small from the get-go, and then add on rather than chipping off. So rather than starting with a large scope and then chipping off as the semester goes on, when you realize that you don't have time to take on higher level requirements, or you don't have the time to fulfill some more ambitious requirements, rather than doing that, which is much more stressful. Take it from me, because this is what we went through this semester. Start with a small scope, then go large, rather than starting from a big scope and then going small. Okay, smart but lazy. Now, this next lesson that I learned is for all of my female engineers out there, because I know we all come across this once in our lifetimes, at least, usually. And what I want to say to this is, especially if you're in a leadership position, leaders do not need to be nice. I feel like, especially as females, we have this innate idea that we need to be nice in order to get things done. Now, I want to be very clear. You need to be kind, empathetic, understanding, but you do not need to be nice and polite in order to get things done. Take on the required demeanor that best fits you as a leader. For me, it's very businesslike and very direct and straightforward, clear cut and straight to the chase. Like I'm not a big person for small talk, although it's important. That's an entirely different topic, but I'm just explaining my demeanor when I'm in a leadership position. So sometimes it comes up where I'm just like, I feel like I need to be nice and kind of go in circles. No. Don't do any of that. Stay true to how you feel like you should carry out your leadership position that is most authentic to you. And that's the key word. You want to be authentic to yourself and what you believe makes yourself the best leader that you can be. And then, believe me, things will go much more smoothly. You do not, and I repeat, you do not need to be nice and polite and the typical things that come into mind when you think of being nice. You do not need to be any of that in order to be an effective PM and get things done. And take it from me, my entire team was myself and a team of 5 men. So when I say that as the PM, I really understood this whole concept of stay true to yourself and you do not need to be nice, okay? Get that idea of being nice out of your head, be direct, be kind, be straightforward, and get things done. Those are your goals, okay? So that was another lesson learned. Now, the 4th lesson that I learned this semester as the project manager for my team is that a leader does not rush. And this is something that my mentor last year said to me, and it's something that I unfortunately forgot. But I was reminded of it this semester when I was talking a bit too fast sometimes, or I was so excited by some ideas that I would trip over my words, or certain situations would occur where I'm just like, why? Like, how did this even happen? Why did we even do this, right? So in certain situations, you need to remind yourself that a leader does not rush. You talk slowly, you talk with confidence, and you do not trip over yourself, no matter, and here I am tripping over my words as I say that. So you do not rush, you talk slowly, and you do not trip over your words. Say them with confidence and say them with pace, all right? And this is irrespective of how much time you have, because you're the boss and you decide when things are done, all right? So take the reins and talk slowly. Believe me, it will change everything, because calmness and that whole vibe goes a long way. Seriously, it goes a long way. So do not rush yourself. Now, the 5th lesson that I learned, and this is super important for the actual workings of being a project manager, is PMing is not only about planning and scheduling. It is more importantly about monitoring. Now, what do I mean by this? So, as the PM, you initially schedule tasks, you assign them to your team and all of that jazz, everything's going good, but do not wait until that task needs to be done in order to, see it in real life action or ask people to deliver at that point. No, periodically, every couple of days, every few days, check in with people. And this is not, that typical meeting where you go like, hey, are you having any problems? Give me an update. Give me a general update, right? No, because we did that. What I mean is specifically go like, okay, well, if it's going good, did you encounter any problems? Are you sure it's only going good? I'm sure something would have come up. Or are we on track to do this? Or, have you thought about these particular problems that may arise, right? Like, are we on track? Are we making progress? What do we have to show so far? And always ask that. Always ask, what do we have to show so far for this? Like, what have we actually accomplished for this? Don't just ask, is it on track, or are we set to have this accomplished by this date? No, 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 don't do any of that jazz. Please do not do that. Do not repeat my mistakes. Specifically ask what we've actually accomplished so far every single time. And if they say that, hey, this is done, ask them to show it to you. If it's software, that's very easy. Or tell them to, you know, ask them to give you a demonstration or something along the lines of that. Make sure that you're actually monitoring the project rather than getting blanketed updates and statements that you can't really work with as the PM. I mistakenly took that to be the former, where, hey, the project is actually progressing, whereas they're not the same, and it makes a huge difference, okay? And this is especially true if you don't know your team, because you don't know how they work and you know, the way they're gonna perform. So always monitor and keep your eye on the ball. All right, with that, my tea is finished, and I have gone over the top 5 lessons I learned this semester from my engineering design project. Now, I hope you are able to take these lessons and apply them in your own life, because I know I will be keeping my eye on these and constantly be reminding myself of these so I can be a better PM and engineer in the future. So with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then.